Start recording. Let me check my space on my hard drive. $500 gigabytes left. Okay. The room's not that dark. It's just special effects. Okay.
Hey, bro, looking good, bro. Oh, bro.
Oh, bro, I'm pumping it. I'm learning to protein shake, man. The future's now.
I like the way you're looking, bro. I like the cut of you. Double the reps. Double the reps. Bro, yeah, bro.
I want to be a bro.
I can teach you. Hands straight out in front of you. Just like that. You're ready on count 3. We're gonna drop down, start squatting. On my mark. 1, 2, 3. Squat.
Bro, you know what
Squat.
this is, bro?
You'll be slow in no time.
I'm feeling it.
Squat. Feel it burn. You're gonna be huge. Biggest in the gym. Just gotta reward yourself. Reward yourself. You got this. Pump that iron. Pump it.
One more.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
You gotta put these guys to shame. Keep going.
Reward myself. Reward myself.
You got this. More weight. Bigger weight, bigger rewards. Pump it. Yes. More weight. More rewards. Bring it in. Yes.
Reward myself.
Keep popping, squatting. Balls. Dodge the balls. You wanna be a bro?
I want to be a bro.
Oh, no! Somebody stop it! It's too powerful!
It's the bro-apocalypse!
One of us there. One of us. One of us.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks, bro. So, what are we doing, bros?
We're watching Seinfeld, bro. That's what bros do after blowing out.
Oh.
Bro, 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 bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Endgame with your hosts, Popopo, Nomino, and guest starring Godlocks.
Yay!
Awesome.
Hey, we did it.
Hey, hi everyone! Welcome to Endgame!
Today we're going to be talking about gender identification with your avatar choice, like how you're trying to present yourself. And I think we're going to have like a couple of different ideas of the way that people look at that. But before we get to it, let's have our community spotlight. And this week, we're going to hear from Mr. VR Pill. Get up here.
What, me?
Yes, you. How do you feel things are going? Like, where do you think humanity is eventually going to end up when it's, you know, far, far into the future?
Well, I mean, first off, if we're talking like 100 years in the future, far off, right? Most of these jobs that we see people having now, like taxi driver, you know, convenience store clerk, etc., won't exist, right, in the traditional sense. So we'll have a brief period of mass unemployment followed by, you know, these new jobs being created, right? I think there might be another recession. So let's just take theoretically if VR really takes off, right? And we have these virtual worlds where people can hang out and, you know, the headsets aren't clunky anymore. They're like either contacts or whatever, right? I think that jobs sort of will be created in the VR sphere. So instead of like, let's say if somebody was a taxi cab driver in the real world and they lost their job due to like car automation, right? They would instead maybe be like a cab driver in the virtual world, where you'd think, okay, why would they need a cab driver in the virtual world? Is to continue believability, to have all these like sort of actors, whether they're cab drivers or, you know, clerks at a store, etc., people to enhance the believability of the virtual world, rather than it just being like, you know, a place where people just hang out right in these theme park areas. Most of the jobs, I think, will be going some different area that's maybe not a necessary job, but it's something just to keep people busy and working according to, like, I think it's too big of a stretch to go to the idea that everyone's just going to get paid a basic income for doing nothing, right? I think that especially in the States, there's going to need to be something for people to do. It's just too ingrained into our society.
You sort of feel like we're so stuck in our ways that even when we move into the virtual world, we're going to like bring all the old stuff with us. Like we're going to simulate taxi drivers because we're like so used to it, instead of, you know, going off inventing something new or like changing significantly. Like we're stubborn.
What about like 500? What about like 500 years from now, when maybe some of our patterns will have changed?
In 500 years, people say we're going to go off to other planets and do all that stuff. I think it's mainly we're going to move inwards, right? We're going to go into these virtual worlds we create, and people be getting a lot more creative. As along with the whole job thing, right? They'll need a bit more creative outlets for making an income, right? Because a lot of it will be replaced with automation.
When you talk 100 years from now, everything you're saying, I'm reading that as like 20 years, basically. I'm like, all the changes you're imagining, I imagine that happening much quicker and things sort of stabilizing to some degree.
I could see either way happening because, like, I mean, I can see like a lot of technology accelerating and everything, but I don't know that I don't know that political systems or people's mindsets are changing quite that fast. And in order for us to make like drastic changes in our society, like the people have to go with it. It can't just be the tech, you know. So I'm not really sure. I could see it going either way.
Flying cars are a meme, just like automation is a meme.
And I think there's kind of a recurring theme over the years where we always sort of sit there and say, oh my God, what are we going to do in 10 years? This is going to be a huge problem. What are we going to do in 20 years? This is a huge problem. And then you wait 20 years and you find out it wasn't as big of a problem as it was. So I think that sort of in the near future we might have an issue, but what you're talking about, like sort of far in the future, I definitely think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
If we make it 100 years, man, I think we're golden. Like that means like we've really made it through the rough patch, I think. But of course, we'll see in 100 years how fucking wrong I am. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm still going to be around for sure. There's no question.
Singularity,
Yeah,
man.
definitely. Can't wait to hear your vlog about it in 100 years.
By the way, Endgame, 100 years. For 100 years, we're doing this show. I forget how many
100 years
episodes that is.
Endgame.
All right, thank you, Mr. VR Pill.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you in 100 years.
Yep.
Do you feel like sitting in these chairs makes us too highfalutin? Like, I feel like...
No, it feels like a TV show, professionals, you know?
To smoke.
Yeah, it adds authenticity to the whole thing.
I mean, the chairs are here. I feel like it would be kind of rude not to use them.
Oh, jeez, okay. All right. Well, so after the show last week, I was talking with a couple of people in the hall, including, I keep on calling you Goblox. Goblox? And we were sort of talking about like gender presentation in VR chat because, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, right? There's a lot of men who use female avatars, and there's a lot of anime girls, like that's a significant population. And we're sort of talking about like, why is that? Like, why are men more comfortable doing that in here than in the real world? And what does it mean? Like, how are they processing that? Like, are they wearing it as a costume, or are they wearing it to sort of represent who they feel like they are inside? And I don't think there's a consensus there. I think there's going to be a lot of different, opinions about that.
I mean, I can only sort of speak from my experience. For me, coming into VR chat was just sort of, you pick your standard default avatar, whatever. And then after a while, you start saying, well, what do I actually want to roll as? What do I want to be sort of my final one? For me, I was just sort of naturally drawn to this because I've always been a fan of like Widowmaker. And so for me, it was sort of a costume thing at first.
Now, what
and
is
it was
that?
something
What is Widowmaker?
From this game Overwatch. And that's her
yet.
other outfit right there. It's my sister.
Oh, very nice. I see.
I used that for a while, and this was basically just a place that was very social for me. And I started to get my views started to change a lot about this place as I started to get like more attached to it. And then this sort of avatar that I'm wearing, I started to get more attached to, and it sort of turned into like a whole different thing for me, wearing this. And so I've just become real curious because I see a lot of people around also wearing avatars that are, the opposite of their gender or detached from their gender. And I started thinking, what about these other people? I've never, honestly, the whole time I've been here, I've never really asked anyone else why they chose to roll as a female avatar if they're male or vice versa. And so for me, I'm really hoping tonight, really want to find out a lot about like the community here and what motivates them.
Well, I'll ask you guys about it. I know that Naman had some thoughts about his robot avatar.
What do you perceive me as in this form?
Pretty gender neutral, I gotta say. It doesn't strike me as particularly masculine of a form.
I don't know.
What do you see when you look at it?
I think it is really neutral. And I think that was part of the reason I chose it. Like early on when I took the generic shitty one that comes with. It's not shitty. It's the great. It's the Unity Atom. It's a great avatar. But this is way better, and I have an accessory, which makes me better than the generic one.
I'm glad you like it.
I don't know. I'm thinking about the color scheme. Does blue make me? Is that still a male color, or is that just an old school way of thinking?
You're
Is
sort
that
of
out of date?
aqua, which is definitely more of a feminine color. The genderness of colors is, I feel, sort of an outdated concept. Like, I know we haven't outgrown it, but like, it doesn't have any basis in anything. You know what I mean?
I remember hearing that it was actually reversed some decades ago, where like pink was a very masculine color, and it was the opposite. And like, it's weird how that changes with time.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually did a bit of research onto what color meant throughout the ages, and it seemed like from my research, feel free to prove me wrong, but I can only find references to blue being a feminine color and pink being a masculine color around like the early Victorian times. But before that, it sort of had like different meanings. Maybe like blue was like more trending more more towards feminine. But around when King Louis XIV came up, he was the first king to wear blue, which was at the time a pretty poor colour and a colour of mourning. So if anything, back in the 12th century when King Louis reigned, it would make more sense to associate blue with a male figure. So I just think that colours just change the meaning throughout the ages, and it's just a social construct.
As these monarchies went, like whatever the king did, became immediately trendy, which I feel like would definitely change the trajectory of like color meaning somewhat. I feel like it's not really that straightforward anymore, is it? Like, is there one figurehead who controls the trends?
Yeah, we all hate orange now.
Well, I mean, that's sort of the opposite of that. Sure.
I think maybe why pink may have stemmed into a colour of masculinity was back in the early days, pink was seen as a colour of Christ.
Oh, really? Where did that come from?
Never heard that.
Well, feel free to prove me wrong, but that's where I got my research from.
I don't think I can. No one's going to prove you wrong. Like you're the only.
Well, I'm open up to admitting that I may be wrong.
Wearing heels back in the 14th century was wearing heels was masculine thing as well, and then women adapted that just to feel a little bit more masculine.
Oh, thank God that's over.
This discussion of fashion, right? Because all the colors we wear and the shoes we wear and everything, like that's a big way of how we present and perform gender. And I feel like in VR, that's almost taking it to the extreme where it might be only fashion and nothing else for some people. And in real life, it might be that way too. I don't know. I kind of feel like these things are kind of in flux.
Humanoid is always obsessed with how robots identify, or that's something you've brought up a couple of times. And so I'm curious, what do you see this body as? Humanoid's the camera. She might be muted.
Thank you. Okay. Generally for robots, I feel like most of the time when they are portrayed, you can tell the difference between the genders if it has boobs or not. And that's just the general way it's been done. That's always how they've been doing it. They did it in Ex Machina, they did it in Ghost in the Shell. Those are a few examples. So you do not have boobs. So you must be a man. Oh
Is
my.
that simple?
Right?
Interesting.
That's how it works.
When it comes to robots, I feel like, you know how God made people, in a sense? You know how that's a thing?
Yeah, I know. I've heard of it. Yeah.
It might be a flat-chested robot.
Yeah, man. What about that?
Yeah, that's not my opinion. Yes, there can be flat-chested female robots. It's amazing.
My breasts in real life are probably larger than my avatars, just because I'm overweight.
Jeez, Tim.
Okay. You're making it difficult for this poor girl. What were you trying to say?
My point is that God made people, we made robots. We're going back to that thought process, kind of, because it's the beginning. So I don't know. I feel like they might parallel in a way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, it brings to mind all the different AI tech out there. I mean, it's most of the stuff out there comes in a distinctive, often a distinctive female voice. Sometimes in a there's Alexa and Google and Siri. These are all female-voiced robots, and I think that's kind of interesting because they haven't even attempted to go with a gender-neutral voice at all. No one's. I haven't heard of that at all.
I think it's hard because we haven't really come to a point in life where there's a standard gender-neutral voice, because I feel like before you even meet someone, if you just hear their voice, the first thing you kind of process in your head unconditionally is if they're male or female. And so I feel like that's just something your brain does unconditionally, and I feel like...
I have met people where just based on their voice, I can't tell.
But the thing is, right now, the robots that we have don't necessarily have a body. Most of them are little boxes, and so all we really have is their voice, in a sense. It could also play into females being submissive and stuff. I don't believe that. But it might play into
what I've heard is that the female voice is just generally more comfortable for people to hear, especially from a strange box in their living room or whatever. So I mean
I feel like it has something to do with how it sounds like a mother. kind of.
Yeah,
just
go
a
ahead.
quick comment that I heard is that apparently with fighter pilots, when fighter pilots were mostly male, they made the in-cockpit recording female because they had research saying that men, for some reason, tended to respond. They tended to pay more attention to a female voice for some unknown psychological reason, which I thought was a really interesting bit of trivia.
I mean, is it that
I
unknown?
don't know how much evidence there is, but it was an interesting bit on that. So.
Computed and recorded, dear. Computer, you will not address me in that manner. Computer. Computed, dear.
I take it that a lady computer is not routine.
We put it into Signet 14 for general repair and maintenance. Signet 14 is a planet dominated by women. They seemed to feel the ship's computer system lacked the personality. They gave it one. Female, of course.
I appreciate the ability to just be able to pick a non-gendered avatar. I don't have boobs, which means I'm, not a feminine avatar. That's how it works, right? Like, as far as my gender identity goes, I don't have strong feelings about it, but I'm female, and I can't get out of being female, in the real world. There's nowhere else that I can exist in a different context. So I love the contextlessness of VR and the costuming, because probably lots of people have different intentions with their avatars, and so there's an entire mix of contexts going on here, and I like being able to just kind of be, I guess it's sort of an escapism, but I like to think of it as more like I'm not escaping the real world so much as participating in the creation of an entirely new world that's, within and a part of the real world,
Sort of going back to what VR Pill and with Starcraft in a weird way, like talking about like these movements over time. Like it would take so long, right? Like decades, hundreds of years for like trends to change. And right now, like we're talking about being gender neutral in VR. Most people, I think, have experimented with like different gendered avatars here. And I think that shows like a lot of progress very quickly, right? Like once you get everyone in here experimenting with it, I think that might lead to things progressing faster than they have been, right? Like we've been on a trajectory and things have been getting better over time, but I feel like that curve will actually speed up as, more people come to this community in particular.
Well,
That's
and I think a big part of that as well is just sort of people being able to be exposed to that kind of thing, right? I mean, where else in the world could you have that kind of exposure where you can basically inhabit whatever kind of body you want? I mean, this is the type of thing that, I'm sure they had no idea would become a big thing, but I think it's going to be huge with this, is this whole being able to teach these lessons to people that you would have no other way to teach them. And I think it's sort of an unplanned side effect. I mean, I don't know, I obviously didn't create VR chat or anything, but I assume it's sort of an unplanned side effect that I think is going to reap a lot of rewards as far as evolving people along faster, because making it easier. I mean, there's so many times when you're having a discussion with someone and you just feel like if you could only understand what I was thinking, or if you could only look into my brain and understand what I was feeling. And to me, this is in here allows, in some certain sense, as far as genders inhabiting bodies, allows you to sort of find that out. And it was really eye-opening for me.
If you just wear your avatar as a costume, we kind of want to hear about that. If you use it as a self-expression, we want to hear about that too. Anybody?
For me, I actually identify as female, both in real life and in here. The thing is, I'm transgender, so for me, this is one of the few places where I can really open up and be myself. Yeah, my voice might be a little discerning sometimes, but VR is a place where I can feel comfortable, not be judged, and ultimately just feel safe, so that's really the gist of it.
Cool, I'm glad that VR is that space for you.
Hell yeah.
I think it is for a lot of us on a lot of different levels, too.
We're all different areas on the spectrum. We're all different, but we're all dealing with the same in the real world, there are still a lot of old ideas that are taking forever to go away, and people who are taking a long time to adapt. And so, I mean, wherever you are on the spectrum, I'm sure when you come in here, it's sort of a breath of fresh air, right? It's like, oh, thank God. A lot of that old stuff can sort of take a back seat a little bit.
Well, me personally, I view my avatars that I have like display pictures. They're just a means to just show what I'm interested in. Like, I have a lot of video game avatars of both genders, so I'm not really looking for, you know, a specifically male or female avatars. If they're just a character that I happen to have.
Do you have any female avatars? Because I don't know if I've seen any of yours.
I have this one. The eyes is still a bit wonky.
Pokemon, right?
Yeah, I believe her name is May. Pokemon. So I found this model and I thought, man,
Your
this
hair is
looks
eating your head.
good.
It's adorable.
Also got Samus.
Oh, it's Samus,
She's
yes.
female as well. Awesome.
Yeah.
She is.
Starting for me.
She's female?
And spoiler alert.
Yeah, I like Midna too.
It's still loading in for me, yeah. Got Midna, so I got a couple.
So you view it sort of more as a costume instead of a representation of your true self.
Yeah, however, there are some avatars like this avatar that I had so long, so other people have sort of like they see this avatar as me, so I try to keep that in mind. And at some point in the future, I want to create my own 3D avatar that is supposed to represent me as a person, like just create a persona. I want it to be some sort of robot humanoid character.
This is not the one I identify you as. Usually when I've hung out with you, you've actually been someone else.
Probably this one.
Yeah,
that I just
feel like that's a more recent one, yeah.
You're sort of talking about like continuity, right? So like, is it become more representative just when you stick with it with a longer time? How, from the outside, can we tell when someone is trying to represent themselves as opposed to just putting on a costume, right? There's no clear way, I think.
I mean, continuity is the only thing I would guess, because when I think about people who maybe identify with a certain avatar, that's the one they wear all the time. That's the only cue I can think of.
Like, if I see a person having a single avatar, I sort of, try to think that avatar as them and how they want to represent themselves. And I know a few people that change up avatar every now and then I think they just wear it as a costume, as I say. And there's also people like Poplopo that put a lot of work into their own custom avatars. Like me, I don't recognize that character from anything, and it totally looks
it's custom, yeah.
So if I see an avatar that's like that, then I think, oh, that's how that person wants to represent themselves.
My thing is, like the stock avatars when you first come in, none of them would match my actual personality or what I look like in real life. And not everybody has the skills like Zarni Whoop and so many others to create their own, which is unfortunate. Basically, the one I would look for is a balding old guy, gray mustache, no teeth. That's me.
Someone might be able to donate
that one available. I bet someone would be able to help you out with that, but we definitely need to get that representation in here for sure.
Well, it's just like I say, the stock avatars are very limited. Most of them are young-based or robot-based or like this one alien-based, so on and so forth. But as far as representing real people, there's not much to choose from.
I think it's naturally going to become easier and easier to have your own custom one. Like, you do need some amount of skills. Like, there's a lot of tutorials and there's a lot of help here if you want to like create your own avatar. But it's going to get easier and easier because it's like so obviously something everyone wants to do. When you come into this new world, you want to have like a custom body, right? You want to like design yourself. Once you've been here and you see what people can do, it's like it's going to be weird to go to some other virtual world where everyone looks like a box.
Welcome to the Virtue Good 6500.
Oh.
Initiate calibration.
It's incredible. This avatar I'm having right now is represent myself, but it's a bit broken. And all the avatars I have is to show, again, like you said before, to present things I found interest, like favorite TV shows, like.
Right. Yes, you've got a lot of Steven Universe characters, so
yeah, I'm a big fan
definitely
of
know
Steven
that you're
Universe.
a fan.
I also got Disney characters.
Do you feel different when you're embodying different genders, like in all those avatars,
It's
or do you
like
feel always like?
role-playing. I really love to roleplay. Getting into characters like this makes me get better in roleplaying in general, and well, and also in some props models, I'm also interested in
You also
science.
do a lot of vehicles too, and yeah.
It's interesting
Or
that you're also
mistake matter.
Kit. Yeah, and Kit is masculine, right?
I don't know, Michael.
It's from Knight Rider,
It's not in my dream car.
80s TV show.
Yeah, the voice
I grew
was
up on that. See,
Kit couldn't do that.
The car itself?
Yeah, Kit could talk.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
It's a talking car.
Michael, slow down. You're going to crash. I can handle it, kid. But you're approaching a dangerous curve.
I can handle. Ah!
Sorry, Michael.
Well, these computer things are just a waste of time anyway.
I'm more familiar with Christine, which is, I guess, a more feminine car. It doesn't talk, not in words anyway.
Is
Don't
Christine
need
an
to
evil car?
Yeah, Christine
yes,
was very
yes,
evil.
it kills people, yes.
Stephen King.
Okay, you guys do know. Good.
Kit was a hero.
Yeah.
The thing too, depending on the avatars, it also depends on the mood you're in that particular day. Then
Yeah.
you'll change to something depending on your mood.
I wonder if at some point we will merge the two where you'll have some kind of continuity, like maybe you'll have something like this avatar, but you'll have a bunch of different versions of it for how you're feeling on that day or a different outfit you want to wear.
A bunch of the anime girls have different outfits.
So Sarah is exactly that. She mentioned that she's comfy with who she is, but she really likes costumes and stuff. So that's why she makes so many different avatars, but has her face in all of them. So it's pretty much exactly that. The face is the continuity.
Kempo has a lot of costumes for the same avatar.
Yeah, there's definitely a charm to that. I really like seeing variations on an avatar. It just seems more lifelike, a little bit more immersive when it's the same avatar wearing different clothes, right? Because that's what we do in real life. We wanted to hear from Nisox, who had a thing or two to say about this topic. So Nisox will be using text-to-speech, so they're going to type it out. And
you mentioned a while back how people have different intentions. I use VR as a way to ease my gender dysphoria as people see me as a girl since that's my avatar, so I'm using this platform as an escape from ill stuff.
Okay, so gender dysphoria is something that you experience in real life, and being in VR actively helps to kind of relieve that feeling?
Did you have any idea that when you first came in here that it would turn into that kind of thing for you?
I wonder how long you've
I remember when he was still speaking with his own voice.
One of the things that really makes me sad is my voice, hence why I use this.
Yeah, because like I think she identifies female, right? And so if you hear that voice and you assume that's male, then I think that's what creates some of the dysphoria, right? It's sort of like, and like it's interesting that voice is one of the only things that comes through here. You know almost nothing about me, but you know what I sound like. And unless I'm using a voice modulator, like that's the one part of me that I'm not aware of. What the fuck is the right word for that?
Obfuscating.
Sure.
Are we heading to a point where even the voice will sort of be detached? You know, how you were talking about how colors are associated with genders. Are we going to get to a point where the tone of a voice is going to be non-relevant anymore?
I think absolutely, especially through things like this. Like we're not experiencing gender the same way as when I was a kid and everything was black and white and there wasn't a lot of gray area. You come here and you're instantly in the gray area. And so like I feel like a lot of those ideas not instantly, a lot of the old ways of thinking will have to die off, you know, eventually. It might take a little bit of time, but coming here I think is an acceleration.
Absolutely. Because I can tell you, when I first got here, I would have never thought that was possible. But in the short time that I've been here, I've done a complete 180, and it totally opened my eyes to that.
I think VR is going to kill gender. It's so irrelevant now.
Yeah, I mean, as biology becomes less and less important in day-to-day life, biological constraints aren't going to, play as big a role. Especially in something like this, like you mentioned, if our voices become detached from our presentation as well, like it'll just get more and more about how we choose to, appear instead of how society, imposes upon us how we should appear.
It might be like color, the way society sort of saw colors a certain way, and then it changes over time. And like, I think like the pitch of your voice will be similar to that.
Yeah, I really enjoy the diversification of pretty much all like styles and fashions and like gender combinations and everything out there. Like I think it's beautiful, and as we get more and more accepting of that and like applying it to everyone, like allow everyone the freedom to express however they want, I think things can only get better from that.
Well, I was about to add on to what you said about the combination of different genders and identities, and for the longest part, I thought myself as a straight person, but as I explored more and more about my sexuality, I discovered that actually I'm pansexual. So when I entered in VR chats, I didn't really mind that people weren't who they were. I mean, I found it a little odd at first, but yeah, so that's why I haven't changed, because in the end, I don't really care what gender you are. When we break down that wall of people scared of what other people may think and choose to accept themselves and express themselves who they are, then we're going to see a greater variation and a variety of how people choose to express themselves, which could have an untapped potential to, personalities and stuff, and that's what I believe.
I think research shows that neurologically, like men and women neurologically, men and women aren't different collectively. Like two women are generally more neurologically different from each other than men and women are collectively, I think is the the most modern research about it.
Sarah mentioned that VR chat seems to make it's a safer environment to represent gender beyond binary.
Totally.
I mean, for the most part,
the other thing you got to keep in mind is people's perception. You got some people that are open-minded, some people that are closed-minded. The closed-minded people, what's this transgender stuff? I don't want to be here. Or open-minded people won't care.
I did run into a guy here who I started playing a game with him, and he got, throughout the course of the game, it was one of the shooting games, I don't remember which one, got like more and more offended that I, a woman, was encroaching on the male space of video games. And I like that was the it was pretty miserable to play that game. Like it felt like shit. And then after the game, we got in a conversation, and that was like he was like serious about it. Like, yeah, women shouldn't be here. What are you doing here? So that happens. I don't know whatever happened to that guy. I don't know who that was or if he's ever come back. Yeah.
Did you happen to find out how old he was?
I know he sounded like an adult. So anyway, I don't know who he was.
Are you sure he wasn't just trolling you?
He sounded legitimately offended. Like at the first part of the game, he was like shocked that I was there, and then he got more and more hostile over time. I don't know. It sounded sincere.
Keep in mind the age of a person. The older a person is, often, not all the time, but often, the less they're willing to change. They're used to being set in their own way, kind of thing.
That's true. But I feel like it's just naturally. Maybe I'm just being too optimistic. Like the guy that you ran into, like I wonder how well he does in the community and how long he decides to hang out here,
I don't know.
Or if he has the attitude, if he just eventually goes away, because hopefully he's going to run into more than just one woman, and I guess maybe that'll just drive him away. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I gotta say, the ratio of experience is very small. Like I've run into that one dude, and then like the hundreds of other people I've met have been great. That's a better ratio than you find like in a lot of places online. I like our ratio of hostility to friendliness. It's a good one.
So you were asking earlier, what's going to happen to all the closed-minded people? And
I feel like the way they grew up, the world they lived in, the way their peers see the world, they're not trying to impress young people, they're trying to impress people their own age, I feel like.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not trying to impress anybody. You get to a certain age and it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. You know, like I say, I'm pretty much there myself.
I mean, but that's the thing. These people don't let people live and let live. They get upset and angry about people doing, like, about the way things are changing and everything.
Well, angry people will always be angry. There's nothing you can do about that. That's the way they are.
I think ultimately it comes down to values. Do you think because like these people get upset because they value a certain pattern in gender presentation, and we value a different pattern in gender presentation? How do you how do you change someone's values? But I guess maybe there isn't any possibility of that.
I feel like you change values through experience. Like there were people who would hate, like, let's just say certain ethnicities, like they would hate black people until they met one, right? It took the experience of like, oh, I thought all of this about this thing because I didn't understand it. I didn't know anybody. And once you actually, have more experience, like meeting different kinds of people, I think you naturally start to accept it. I think some of the hatred and like the pushback comes from, I don't want to say ignorance. But it's like, an inexperience, right? You're afraid of something you don't understand.
That is ignorance.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be mean.
It's not knowing.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you don't understand. If you don't understand, it's ignorance.
And this is a new tool. Like in the old world, you could try to educate ignorant people or give them experiences, but now more than ever, you can do that. Like you put them into virtual reality, you can give them a lot of experiences they've never had. It's the best experience tool we've ever had.
I think with also with VR, right? Unlike in the real world, or very similar to in the real world, you're going to have a lot of people that more so will just go together with people of similar interest and hang out in their own separate space with those people. Right now, it's pretty hard to see because we have a couple hundred people max in social VR apps, right? Once you have, tens, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of people, right? Just like you see on Reddit, right, on Facebook right now, etc. People, they go off into their groups, and because maybe they have an interest or lifestyle that not a lot of people have, but when you're talking about billions of people, if they find like 10 or 20,000, that's a lot of people. I mean, look, this community here, like right now, is about 60 to 70. It seems like a lot, right? If you can imagine like 10, 20,000, which is just a tiny bit of people when you think worldwide, but in one space, that could be your whole community you hang out with. So I think it'll maybe be less of an issue when VR really blows up.
Man, I wonder.
Yeah, Panda. Like, VR chat, it's like communication via voice. It's a voice chat. It's like you have an avatar, and you can kind of look at each other and like do a few things, but like the communication happens through voice, you know. Over being part of people's debates. Anyway, I'm done listening to that. And I think I might start Blender. I might be doing Blender. I liked 1K Suns better. I want to listen to it again. Fuck. There's a few songs in there that were really good. And, like, I think it was even just, like, the second song. I can't remember what it was called, but, like, I was really feeling it. Shit. I want to listen to it. I want to listen to it. Fuck it. This is the live stream. I'm gonna do what I want to do. Should I just look at Burning in the Skies? Which full album link is the legit one, Twy? Can you help me? I don't know what the songs sound like at their bass pitch, so I don't know if like we're gonna get some pitch bent bullshit. Restart the recording. Yeah, sure. Okay.